Can we start 1 minute early?
I told him to try. I'm
Here's your computer, Tilly.
Welcome to our city council meeting tonight. Happy Valentine's. I don't know, Craig, why you're here and not taking your wife out to. Okay, you just take her on vacation. I've asked Councilwoman Granger, she will offer our invocation, and Councilman Bellson, if he will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our beloved Father in heaven, we're grateful for the moisture that we've been receiving. We pray that it might continue, that we will be able to avert some of the drought that we've anticipated. We ask, Father, also for inspiration in the decisions we make this night, that we might have deeply in our minds the best things that can happen for the city over which we have some control and decision making. We ask for that inspiration. We're grateful for the group who work together here as a city council, mayor, city manager, city attorney, and others who support the efforts that we have for the people under our care. We ask a blessing on them and on us in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to approval of the agenda. We need to remove item 5A, the special event, and we have rescheduled that till the 28th. Other than that, I think the outline is as follows.
With that, Mayor, I'll make the motion that we approve the agenda as outlined, just postponing presentation of our item 2A.
5A.
Or 5A, I thought it was 2A.
Eliminating, right?
Eliminating. 5A, my bad.
No worries.
Clean out my ears.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Rick, aye.
Bellis, aye.
Granger, aye.
Ward, aye.
Thank you. Announcements. Before we start on this presentation, I just want to, on a personal note, I'd like to thank Councilman Belliston for putting his neck on the line out there, running for that state senate position, state representative position. I admire that, Troy, for you doing that. I know that it probably wasn't the most funnest thing that you've ever.
I'm really happy I lost.
We're happy you lost too. We won both ways in my mind, but I just wanted to thank you for doing that.
Thanks. I think Travis Segmiller will be a great addition to the state legislature, and he's from here, and I'm excited to get to know him in that capacity.
We think by you staying here, there's some purity that will be maintained and kept by the universities.
Oh my.
I thought you were going to say there's going to be some purity kept and maintained at the state level.
Yeah. No, yeah, okay.
That part's so low, and we can assume that already.
Thank you. So, but thanks again, Troy.
Yep, thank you.
You're welcome. Very welcome. Item 2, to presentation of what we're made of video. Did we invite the person that we did the video?
No, and actually, I thought that's one you just bumped, but I would ask Mayor because he wasn't able to be here tonight. Maybe we just bump that. Be nice.
See, I was inspired.
He's very inspired.
Are we giving him a certificate?
We're working on
Great.
that as well.
Okay.
It's a great suggestion. And so Betty Jo's working on getting just some small kind of plaques
Yeah.
with the month, their name, what, yeah, and then their,
Great.
the month, the title. So.
You two are familiar with what we're doing there, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. We're highlighting a citizen or a resident, and we're entitling that video that we make of them what we're made of. So if you have somebody in mind offer a
So
suggestion.
I saw one of those from you.
Right, right.
We met the man who was here
Yes.
last
Right.
time.
Yeah.
Rex just couldn't make it tonight, so we're going to wait till he can make it. Then we'll make it.
This one actually is leaked out already, so
Oh,
some of you that's been on Facebook have probably seen this one already.
cool.
Yeah, usually
It leaked.
they'll get it out there before we actually sometimes.
All right, we'll move on. Item 3, declaration of abstentions and conflicts. Anything to declare from the council? Okay, item 4, consent agenda. Consideration to approve the board audit report and the consideration to approve the renewal of the following off-premise licenses for alcohol, First Stop and Maverick.
Mayor, if I can just, just as a follow-up on one of the questions, there was a question, I believe it might have been Councilman Turk, but I can't remember, Virgin River PDM.
Yes.
That is a sediment removal project that we got FEMA grant money for. And so
Good.
money will be coming back in on that. So that's what that was. Great.
Thank you, Manager. Appreciate that. Any questions or discussions on the board audit report?
I can't remember how we finalized the credit card issue. We're trying to clarify that a little bit better.
Those will be, what we'll do is Kimberly on your next board audit will prepare something and have you guys look at it kind of going forward, and we'll tweak it if we need to.
Okay. Thank you.
That said, Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Have a motion and a second?
Maybe because only I hadn't had a chance to go through it. I think
Okay.
it's probably fine.
Okay.
Aye.
Granger, aye.
Bellis and I.
Turek, aye.
All right, that's approved 4-1. Move on to item 6, agreement, consideration to approve the resolution authorizing and approving the carbon-free power project, power sales contract with Utah Associated Municipal Power Systems, initial budget and plan of finance for the project and related matters. City Manager.
Mayor, we've had some extensive discussion on this and follow-up as well. Appreciate Councilman Ward coming in and visiting as well. So at this point, of course, staff, again, I'll just mention that at least in this segment of the project, staff is very comfortable. There's nothing that's indicating us at this point that this project, that there is any reason why we shouldn't proceed forward with the next phase of this project. Of course, that doesn't mean we won't have concerns at other phases, but at this point, we would recommend approval for this next phase and for the execution of the power sales agreement.
I'd like to suggest that at each of the phases where the compensation is no longer 100% back if we withdraw, that at that point where it actually will cost the city money if we withdraw, that we make sure it comes back to the board. We have a chance to.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, there will be a requirement that the legislative body probably take action at every one of those stages. And even if that isn't the case, even though I'm 99% sure that is the case, that would be, I think we've tried very hard, especially for those of you who've been on the council for a long time. We've been discussing this for a number of years, and our whole goal is to be very, very transparent on this project, and it's a complicated project, as many of these power projects are. But yes, feel free and to ask us to come back and renew discussion. You're always welcome to join me on a trip to UAMPS if you'd like to do that, and any of those things. But we never want you to feel uncertain with respect to at least the information you're getting from us.
One thing I'd like to add on to that with Councilman Granger is once we move to the point where money is being invested, just what is the very clear amount at each stage at a time. And I just piggyback on what she's saying and what you're saying also. I would like to know that we can have that opportunity as a council to take one step at a time, vote at a time to proceed, not just take a vote and then it goes 2 or 3 steps, then we vote again. Things have happened. That's just my only concern. So
Right.
It seems like that's been addressed. Thank you.
I had sort of wanted, I thought I asked for maybe a layout that shows at what year we're at what stage, and at that stage what money we're investing and how much of it we can get back. I don't think I've seen that document.
That section 601 not only has the dates, and I will actually pull it up and see if maybe even, well, I guess it's just Denise, so no, I'll do that.
But Roger, that's only in the PowerPoint, right?
That's only in the what?
Isn't that only in the PowerPoint?
Yes, but that's, yes.
Yeah.
And, but that's what it
Which
ties
isn't in the
to.
doc, which isn't in the
That's dates
documents
that
there.
She's
It's-
asking. for.
Yeah, but the information she's asking for is both in the lower corner. The dates are in the lower corner that show clearly when stage 1 is, stage 2, stage 3. Now, those can move a little bit, understand, but at this point, that's those stages. And then each of those stages will tie in with the schedule up above that shows not only what the 100%, our 100% entitlement commitment is, but then what the reimbursement commitment on our part is with those declining reimbursements or contributions. So what I'll probably do, it might be easier because we have maybe struggled to get into the PowerPoint, is I'll just print that section out, that piece out for you.
I want it to be real clear at what point we may be risking funds that won't be reimbursed and the project could still fail. And given the concern that that could occur, because it still is an innovative new process.
Yeah, I
Whether
look at
we-
this in that, similar to when Glen Canyon Dam was being built. Those entities that were building that, there was certain uncertainty was there. But look at those that stuck with it and stayed in, the rewards they're reaping today. We all wish we'd been a part of that
We
one.
should have been part of that. Yeah, and
I
so,
see this kind of being that same opportunity.
so in terms of that, should it fail, just the reassurance that we're also looking for power in other areas as a backup if we don't receive that
Yeah.
bulk of power, because we'll be so close to when we start to lose power that we won't have much time to react to that.
Well, this is the game we've been playing for 30 years now.
Yeah, okay.
So yes, you're exactly right. And I saw a number the other day that I'd share with you that I think maybe puts this into perspective. Remember, our drop dead dollar amount is $65 a megawatt. Right now, our Horse Butte Wind project averages $72 a megawatt.
Yeah, wind's never been cheap.
And it's never been cheap, and we're forced into it because of a resource portfolio requirement. And so again, if this goes, this is significantly beneficial to the city. But you're right. I mean, there's risk, and with risk comes anxiety, and we just want to make sure. And this anxiety is across the board too. And also, I was going to mention is the nice thing about belonging to the Joint Action Group of UAMPS is there are some members that are not even involved in this project that have chosen within their own portfolio mix that this doesn't fit. Either they have a lot of CRISP, they have IPP, whatever that may be. But they're going to need other resources too. And that's what's nice is we'll be continuing to look at combined cycle gas. We'll be looking at those other things because we have partners out there that are going to be in other fields.
Well, and part of this depends on, as I understand it, 100% buy-in to what's available. Where are we with that right now within UAMPS?
The 100%, the 600 megawatts.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we'll never have 600 megawatts. We could light 2 states with 600 megawatts. We have about 140 megawatts, but we have enough interest in subscription of well over 600 megawatts. It's just UAMPS is trying to determine the right partners. Now, again, let's just say all those partners, so you may say, well, what if those partners never come to fruition? Well, this project doesn't go anywhere then. I mean, these partners will have
So let
to.
me ask you another question.
What's that?
Are we the first ones to make this commitment? If we make this commitment tonight, how many others have made the commitment we're about to make?
The UAMPS group.
The UAMPS groups is all here. I don't know the answer to that. The UAMPS groups are hearing it. The legislative bodies are hearing it all through the month of February. I can't tell you who's approved it or who's not.
Has anyone?
I can't answer it. And to me, again, the issue is if no other group approves this, you're out nothing. Yeah. You're out nothing. So really what you need to decide tonight is if this works for this organization.
Well, so on the out nothing part, so even after you're 2 or 3 stages in this and you've invested money into it, UAMPS is refunding that? If they take an off ramp? Now I realize if the city goes off on its own and says we don't want it, then you're out what you've invested in it.
Nope.
But if we stay with the UAMPS group and only exit if we hit one of those contractual can't hit the dollar.
$65 megawatt issue.
Is that money refunded then?
Absolutely.
It is.
Through the next stage. That's new scale.
Because it's spent money, so I'm
Floor absolutely is sunk cost. So Fluor Corporation, the parent company of NewScale, is the ones that's guaranteeing that that if they can't hit the 65, that's why we had to go to them and say, here's our number. And they could have pushed it back and said, this is not a number that works for us. Because the commitment to that number is that you, if you can't hit that number, we get complete reimbursement. Now, again, as time goes by, that commit, as you get further down the road and the uncertainty drops, that number will drop. But right now, that's Fluor Corporation who's guaranteeing that reimbursement. Now, they feel that even if that happens, there's value to them. They own all the intellectual property rights. They continue, they just move on to another company and begin to work that direction, but they own all the resource. We don't own the resource. We don't get anything from that. They own the resource. They own the intellectual property rights. So there's value there. Now, even again, I want to point out that even if there's a stage down the road that Washington City says, well, we're not really interested in this anymore. We painted this, that's our commitment and that's the way we want to paint it, because that's the worst case scenario. That depending on what stage we're on, we're still going to have some costs that we have to reimburse for going this far. But if anybody comes in and picks up our entitlement, they can't walk in at that stage and get everything that's happened before for free. So there would be a recompensation process. Now, whether that would be across the board 100%, and by the way, this has happened before in UAMPS on numerous occasions, and there has never been a time when that has not been those parties that have sold, if you will, let's call it selling, have never not kept whole by those who are buying. And again, there is nothing right at this moment that particularly that we feel is a increased risk that we would have with any other project from combined cycle natural gas. I could say combined cycle natural gas has maybe we already have some proven technology, but the problem with combined cycle natural gas is that's in the crosshairs of the EPA. So my cost for that is the uncertainty on that one's coming on the back end. And I have a big investment in that, and all of a sudden I get hit with a carbon tax, which happens, which is what's taking the coal industry out. That's where my risk is on that one. So all
that carbon tax is what's happening in California right now, right?
Yeah.
Which is why the state of Utah is suing California.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I saw that today, and I didn't read the article, so I can't answer that on point. But carbon dioxide is the greenhouse emissions. That is the one that has the. Now, I would say that at least in the current tone in Washington with this current administration, is the EPA going to be aggressive about that? Probably not. But I can tell you, as soon as the administration changes to the other side, they're going to say vengeance is mine for the last 4 to 8 years that I've had that side. And guess what's going to happen? You're going to see Obama era.
But you could say that for nuclear power as well, because you don't really know where they're going to go. Although the EPA is
my point is there's uncertainty in everything that we do. Yeah. And all I'm asking is saying we feel that this next stage, and I want to be very clear on this, we are not saying that we think this is not a decision right now saying Washington City is going to be in this business in 2026. It is saying we are in agreement to go to the next stage because from staff's point of view, there is nothing that would indicate that doesn't have the potential to be this. All that it says at this moment, we may not say this in the next stage, but at this stage we can say that. And it's to us, it's just a different set of risks, and we've done our very best to mitigate those risks as well as we've done other things.
Well, I agree. And the risks, the mitigating circumstances are part of what fascinates me about it, but also interests me, and I'm thrilled by what you've done. But just so hypothetically, if you get into this and there was something about disposal of nuclear waste that was passed and a regulation that was put burdensome on them, or people got weirded out by another incident, there isn't exactly an off-ramp for that for UAMPS, right?
Well,
you may risk the money. And I think it's not a huge risk.
I think it's fair to say that there's hypotheticals that we could stretch to so far out there. But the best we've done in this technology, and this is the Department of Energy and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission as well. This is what's significant about this, is the level of partnership that they have had. Now, you're correct in saying that could the whole world spin on its axis and all of a sudden it go completely a different direction? It certainly can. We've seen that happen with the coal industry. We've seen that happen with lots of industries within the power service.
But, and I agree with you that we ought to be looking now at this stage to move forward and because we're not risking the whole 77 million at this point. But when we are in that phase and we are invested into it, how much liability would the state have as a partner of that facility if there was an incident or if there was a change in waste disposal?
Well,
Do you know?
I don't, but if you just want a simple answer, I mean, always our worst case scenario is we build a facility and it shuts down. And then your liability is your 70.
Yeah.
But there would be lots, you know. Is it possible? Sure, it's possible. Is it probable? Probably not. And I mean,
Certainly our power plants, for example, have just basic business insurance that also, I mean, so if one of the coal plants, you know, one of them fell into something, we also have insurance that covers us for, I mean, it's not as if we're completely uncovered.
Yeah.
Those types of things.
yeah, I think you could probably look at that, and not to get too far on the insurance side, because I probably can't speak to that in too much detail. But I think if you want to look at a pattern, look at the coal plants. And the country itself said, we recognize we need to capitalize and amortize out these sunk costs. And that's not possible, because we've got to allow that to happen, or it turns the market right on its head. So they've allowed, for instance, the coal plants to decommission over a period of time and those type of things, but to just shut the doors. There were people who wanted that, but it never happened because there is a financial and an amortization component. You got bonds associated with things like this. You've got all sorts of, you got big players, you got Tennessee Valley Authority involved in these things. So you don't just simply shut the door oftentimes without really reeling the whole industry. And if you want to look at a good example, probably the closest example, Councilman, I would say probably the coal industry is one that, if you want to look at a dismal and a really strict closure issue, it'd probably be a pattern much like them.
Okay.
And again, we're still, you know, we still got a ways to continue to flesh a lot of this out.
And then even though we're only voting to go this next step, I do think we should at least be comfortable with the way it lays out through the whole thing. So I wouldn't mind a conversation. Maybe I could pick on Councilman Belliston because our protections for this end during construction phase. And you're saying that we're protected in we're protected in the licensing, and so we're relying on lawyers and engineers to have everything in place and kind of tested and done. But during the construction phase, we really don't have any protection from off ramps. It's diminished, it's gone.
I'm sure, going back to what Councilman Starkey's talking about, we haven't got to that stage yet, but I'm sure you're going to have performance bonds and all sorts of things with respect to that from the construction failure side. You know, that they would never do something that wouldn't have the performance bonds and that sort of stuff in there. Again, I think that what you're talking about is these really kind of extreme policy positions that could really just throw a whole cold, wet sheet on this thing.
Well, the unknown. I mean,
the unknown.
And politics is at the top of that, maybe.
And really, when it comes to power, and you all know this, especially those of you who've been around for a while, we will never bring, I can tell you right now, we will never bring a project that's risk-free. And so you gauging kind of the level of risk with this is a good exercise. It's helpful, but they're all fraught with challenges. But our dependency on power continues to grow in this country. We've got a society that needs to replace this carbon-based power. And it's when you start adding electric cars, you want to know what's a significant power drain right now is this, what do you call it? Cryptocurrency, this mining, Bitcoin mining. You want to know the massive amounts of power that takes?
I seen an article last night about there was a state somewhere that they're having a huge power crunch.
Exactly, and it's all because of that. And that's as much as I'm going to say, because as much as I've read about this, I still don't understand.
That's why you're supposed to do it in your dorm room where the power's free and the internet's free.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
But those two,
Councilman, I just wondered, Councilman Belliston would weigh in on that from your building expertise.
From the.
I realize you're not building power plants, but
Nothing ever goes
you,
over budget.
you feel you have lots of confidence in your Idaho partners up there.
Well,
And I realize they may not be Idaho.
I think Manager Carter's correct. you know, you're gonna have all kinds of bonds and whatnot in place before that starts being built. I think in the States, we're nuclear power averse, where a lot of the rest of the world uses it quite frequently. That doesn't concern me.
And I'm not sure that we're averse to it so much as we are just unused to it. We haven't been forced into it.
We ask our sailors and Marines to hop in a boat that's nuclear powered every day of the year, you know, so.
Yeah, but we also ask them to swallow experimental pills too.
Hey, I took some of those.
You know, one of the
Not a
things
track
too that-
record I'm willing to.
Just to give you a little safety with this is the fact that a lot of this project is built in a plant. It's
And I
not a
like
site
that.
building.
That's neat.
It's under a
That's impressive.
controlled plant building to where you pull it out and drop it in the hole. And so, to me, a lot of your adverse effects could be averted simply by the fact you're in a manufacturing facility.
So I think my last comment, and I'll let us go with this because I think I'm the one holding up the conversation here. But given that our area is not used to nuclear power, I think I would like to see us put it out a little bit. Because I realized just today that if anybody's reading the agendas and they read a carbon-free power plant, that doesn't say what we're really doing there. I'd like to people, you know, it's a long ways out in the future, but I'd like to have our population brought into this as slowly and as much education as we have, as much as they want. I think we just.
Well, my feeling is this: if there's one that bucks against this, don't you ever complain about a power rate to me.
Well, it's easy to say that, but you know, I was weirded out, but the first time I heard about it.
Well, that's.
But again, I was excited about it too.
For 5 years now, and it
Yeah.
excites me because I see an opportunity here that is to keep those power costs in check. That before I was like, where are we going with this? This thing's a runaway train. And that's why I am excited about this project, for the mere fact that I see a constant source of power that is affordable at today's rates, let alone 20 years from now's rates.
My next concern is simply that construction of something this new might take a lot longer than our projections. And we have some serious power needs coming up.
Well, that's why I said, Councilman, we've been in this business for a long time, and we know that there's a gap, and we also know that there's a recognition that more than likely the timetable will not hit exactly what it's going to hit. I mean, we've been around this business long enough to know that that there's probably going to be some project creep. So yes, what I can assure you is that our whole focus, and I'm talking about myself and Rick Hansen, our whole focus is to make sure that Washington City is taken care of when they need to have that happen. I do want to mention, just kind of as we wrap this up, the fact that I think this has been great discussion. And one of the things I've been pleased with is over the years, and certainly it was with Kelly Carlson and now with Rick, is that we have worked really hard to try to keep our council apprised of every one of the steps of this project. Yes, it's sometimes hard to follow because it is very complicated. There's no doubt about it. It's a complicated transaction. It's a complicated process. I think that your questions, I mean, this is a large item. It's a big item. And so the questions are appropriate. The deliberation is appropriate. But I think that I feel really comfortable with the fact that we've also tried to spoon feed you for a lot of years on some of this technology and some of it's coming up. Some of you, a couple of you, not as long, of course. But I think the question's been great.
So I got a couple of questions. The $77 million number that was tossed around, that's a 40-year contract.
That's at least a 40-year. And again, we don't begin to pay until after production.
No, I understand that.
Remember, our piece that we're kind of talking about here is the withdrawal piece, the withdrawal sections of each segment.
Current contracts that we have, how long are those typically? 20 years?
Yeah.
And what are those values?
Now, let me
20
rephrase
years.
that.
Yeah, 5 years, 10 years.
Now,
You mean our, yes, I thought you were talking about a capital facilities investment.
No. When we buy power, we buy on
We
a
don't have a
power
long
contract.
one.
Well,
Five-year contract.
Well, we have a variety. I mean, we have in past, we have, we are an owner in Nebo. And so our obligation there is for the life of the bond, which is about 20 years. We have our market contracts, which run from 5 years to 6 years to 7 years. So each piece of our Horse Butte Wind, we're an equity owner there. So those are going to be longer term. But as far as actual plant life, that's what I thought you were kind of going to.
No. The reason why I asked, because for me,
We've got a variety of.
the longer the term, the more stable our power system. And
Right.
so if we have a long term and it's something that we understand is going to be a solid, stable power source, I prefer a 40-year term rather than a 10-year or 20-year term, even if it's a smaller dollar amount. That's personally.
Yeah, we don't have big hydro dam projects come online anymore.
So
The
the,
cost of those are astronomical compared to what,
You don't get them anymore.
yeah,
They
you just don't get them anymore.
If
But
it's-
you're talking risk of production projects that can produce this kind of power. I mean, there's really not a lot of alternatives.
But we
I
do
just
like
think-
those, and if one comes
Boy,
along, we would look at
I'd
it.
love to.
the reason why I bring it up is because, yeah, it's a big number, but it's because it's such a long-term number.
Right.
I mean, right now, we're buying power at
Right.
how many millions of dollars a year?
Yeah.
It's not like we're not spending that amount of money on the current power source that we have. So I understand.
You keep talking and trying to talk me into it. You're going to make me think of more questions.
No,
I'm
don't
not really
don't
worried
think,
about that.
don't think.
Well, how much of the 77?
So I think there's two questions. One is that long-term power contract number. And the other one is that we touched on a little bit is the I guess the product or the product source. Nuclear power to me probably isn't as big of a deal because I lived in Europe for a long time. That's all largely nuclear. I dealt with radiation producing equipment in the military. So I had a lot of schooling on it and what it does and things like that. So it probably, I think the way they've done this product and the way they've done it in those small reactors that can be dealt with easier than a large Westinghouse nuclear facility. I just, for a lot of reasons, I think it's a great product. And I haven't seen anything that would concern me to this point.
Well, I agree for moving forward to the next stage, but of the $77 million, because so it says you're partially investing in this as a partner, but then you're also going to have some rate that you're going to pay.
That's
Can
the
you-
power, that's the power sales agreement. It's all built within that structure, that investment structure. So everything, it has to, that's debt service and everything, has to be $65 a megawatt or lower. And again, I'm here to tell you, and I only tell you this, don't bank on it, but I'm only telling you this because Fluor Corporation, who by the way operates a number of nuclear facilities around the world, is saying that they believe that they can get that. They didn't even hesitate at the $65 a megawatt.
Yeah, they don't even believe, they contractually said we will.
Yeah, they contractually agreed to that, but they're talking to us is once the engineering comes in, that they can get it somewhere between $55 and $60 a megawatt. And the challenge in this country, again, and I got to stop talking so that we can move on with this, but this country needs to figure out how they're doing carbon replacement. It is, and the reason it hasn't hit us yet is because we still have these plants in place that are still on the downswing. But they're all going to meet their termination date in the next few, handful of years. And that is a problem. That is our baseload power. Wind does not replace baseload power. Solar does not replace baseload power. We're doing no more dams. And so this is a real issue for the Department of Energy and other things. And if we don't do something, we'll be crippled as an economy because we won't be able to sustain any of this. At least the cryptocurrency thing, we won't be able to sustain. So.
You're gonna see-
All right, I think we're done with this.
If there's no more discussion, Mayor, I make the motion that we approve the agreement of our resolution to approve the carbon-free power sales contract.
Second,
I have a motion and a second.
Turek, aye?
Bellis and I.
Granger, aye.
Clough, aye.
Word, aye.
We
All
add
right.
to that we'll get those every time.
Absolutely.
Thank
those
you.
Stages. Yeah.
All right, we'll move forward on that. Thank you, council. Item 7, bid award consideration to award the bid for the telegraph transmission line. OPGW installation. Manager?
I'll take that, but I think it's fairly, I got to pull it up, sorry. Just finding, oh, there we go. I think that, I think there was a memo from Rick Hansen that was in there, is that correct?
Yeah.
And so I was just, oh, there we go. So I think that's fairly self-explanatory. I think I understand it enough, though. If you have any questions, again, they pulled out the fiber testing and splicing. And when you look at that bid tabulation sheet, you can see probably why they did it, because the only two other companies that bid on that one were quite distinctly different in their fiber splitting and testing. And so again, the recommendation is high voltage at $56,050. We have worked with them before. Good contractor. And again, there's a couple other things that could happen there. I mean, if they have some salvage of that wire that they've got, and that's the replacement of the ground wire that they've got there, then they'd give us a $2,500 credit. So I think that's that. Oh, high voltage is what is recommended, the low bidder.
Mayor, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the, award the bid for the telegraph transmission line to high voltage in the amount of $56,050.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second.
Ward, aye.
Clough, aye.
Granger, aye.
Dallas, aye.
Turek, aye.
Thank you. That's approved. Item 8, preliminary plat. Consideration to approve the preliminary plat for the Brio subdivision phase 3D, located approximately at the corner of Brio Parkway and Rialto Boulevard. Applicant Reed, Cole West.
Thank you, Mayor. There we go. Stated the applicant's requesting approval of the preliminary plat for the Brio Phase 3D. Not that it's in 3D, but that's the name of the, sorry, that's set up. The applicant's proposing 33 lots. The area coverage is 9.14 acres. The zoning designation of this particular location is the Planned Community Development Brio PCD. The surrounding zoning to the project is PCD to northeast, south, and west. Again, all part of the Brio PCD. This is pretty much almost in the heart of it. The proposed subdivision conforms to the approved zoning. The request meets the subdivision requirements and other city ordinances. Staff's reviewed the request and recommends approval with conditions of the preliminary plat as outlined. The Planning Commission reviewed the request at their January 17th, 2018 meeting. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval for the preliminary plat for the Brio 3D subdivision to the City Council. And it goes along with the findings and conditions that are in your report. And they're basically the standard 11. There were no extra added upon conditions for this plat. So I'll be more than glad to answer any questions that the council might have as it relates to Brio 3D.
Yeah. So Planning Commission does public hearings at a preliminary plat,
Yes, they do.
By state law.
but we don't.
Correct.
Okay.
So you call them your land use authority is your planning commission. So
Okay.
Just a comment, Drew, one of the things I really like about this is the diversity of your lot sizes. One of the positives I see here, we've got some nice large lots intermingled with some smaller lots. And to me, that gives some great diversity into our subdivision.
so far, Brio's turned out to be a really nice project up there. If you drive through and have a chance, if you haven't, I'd recommend you do it. I love the way the roads are designed. There's not many just straight shots. It's always good to have a little bit of bend and curvature, and helps keep speeds down. Plus, it keeps variety a lot better in your visual sight.
Are the roads large enough that they can park on the roads?
This would be single family.
Private or, yeah, I get that.
I don't, this is public street section, right?
I
I believe so.
It looks like it is to me.
Yeah, I believe they are down.
let me find. Yeah, that's a 50-foot. And see if I can get the. Yeah, these are standard public streets, 50 foot in width. It's the development, the one that's up above, that has more of the patio lots that I think had more of the private, but these are the regular standard size streets.
Any other questions from the council?
I don't have any issue. I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the preliminary plat for Brio subdivision phase 3D, located approximately the corner of Brio Parkway and Rialto Boulevard.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second.
Ward, nay.
Clef eye.
Granger, aye.
Ellison, aye.
Turek, aye.
All right, that's approved 4-1. Move on to a final plat, consideration to approve the final plat for Sugar Plum in the Fields, Phase 4, located approximately 3900 South, 900 East.
Thank you, Mayor. As stated, the request is for the final plat for Sugar Plum in the Fields Phase 4. This particular phase of the subdivision is proposing 34 lots, and the area coverage is 11.649 acres. The zoning at this particular location is the single-family residential 8,000 square foot minimum, referred to as the R18. The preliminary plat for the entire Sugar Plum in the Fields was approved back on January 8th of 2014. Staff has reviewed the request proposal and finds that the proposed final plat conforms to the approved preliminary plat, and the Planning Commission reviewed the request last week at their February 7th, 2018 meeting, and they unanimously recommended approval of the final plat for Sugar Plum in the Fields Phase 4 onto you, the City Council. Of course, that's based on the findings and subject to the conditions, which are, again, just the standard 5 that we have for final plats. I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have on this final plat.
Speaking of different shaped
Yeah.
lots.
Yeah, that's got a few in it.
What, so there was I guess a few months ago, there was a pretty heated public hearing on a preliminary plat for down there.
They were amending
I'm
it.
just trying to get my bearings on where, because I know what the issues were. It was Camino Real where it went tied back in, right?
Right. They wanted to eliminate a street that came over off of Camino Real, and eliminate that and do something down to the south end of a phase that you'll see later. It's the one it's west of this particular phase. That ended up getting shot down. They actually withdrew. I don't think it ever made it to the council, because I think
No,
after the
they-
planning commission with the folks that showed up, the neighborhood.
And tweaked and changed it. I just was curious if this was on where this was a relationship. Because at least that one, they had an overall master plan. I'm just not seeing it.
Yeah, with these phases, they'll just come. So if you take this particular phase right here and what would tie directly to, I think it attaches even to the west of this, would be that phase 4. Actually, it did come back in and do the final. They kept with the original on that. So it abuts right to this on the west side. That would have been phase 3.
They kept that original stub road coming out.
Yeah, they just didn't include, of course, the lots until Camino gets shifted over, well, eliminated at that point, and then where it gets its new alignment off of Washington Fields Road through the Andrus property. Until that happens, those lots will kind of be held captive for a while.
Any other questions for Drew or the applicant?
If not, I'll make the motion that we approve the final plat for Sugar Plum in the Fields Phase 4.
Second,
I have a motion and a second.
Turek, aye.
Ellison, aye.
Granger, aye.
Clef eye.
Ward, aye.
Thank you. That is approved. Item 10, public hearing. Public hearing for consideration, to approve an ordinance granting zone change request Z-18-02 to change the zoning designation for residential agriculture 1A lots, RA1, to single-family 12,000 square foot lots, R112. Request is located at 3090 South 515 West. Applicant Mike Staley.
Now, council, I will, just before I get into my report, we're basically just talking the area in the red box. It was proposed with the 2 different ones coming in, but the one in the blue box isn't in our city yet. That's part of an annexation that you've already begun the process on, so we don't need to. We can zone it. When you accept that annexation, we can straight zone it to that zone they're requesting right there. This exhibit was in here. I didn't feel like I needed, to make them change it. It's just that, we're basically dealing with this 19.44 acres right here that is under consideration on this public hearing. So with that, the applicant is requesting to rezone 19.44 acres. The requested change is from the current zoning of residential agricultural 1 acre RA1 designation to the proposed single-family residential 12,000 square foot zoning designation, which is referred to in the R112. The R112 request is for the purpose of developing the parcel in a future residential development. The general plan land use designation for this particular piece of land is classified as the low-density residential. Now, with the low-density residential, that carries a 3 to 4 dwelling unit per acre density ratio. It basically includes the R112 or the R110 zones in it. That's the only two that are there. So they're actually asking for the R112 on this piece, which is the higher designation, of course. The surrounding zoning to the parcel is RA1, which is residential agricultural 1 acre to the north and east. Washington County zoning to the south. That's the piece we just talked about, but still in the county. And St. George City to the west. Staff's reviewed the requested zone change and finds that it conforms to the general plan and the zoning ordinance. Planning Commission reviewed through a public hearing this request at their January 17th, and that should be 2008 meeting. It wasn't a year ago. Pardon my misprint there, but the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of Z-18-02 to request a change from residential agricultural 1 acre to the proposed single-family residential 12,000 square foot minimum zoning designation. On to you, the City Council, with the findings in the report. I'll be glad to answer any questions the council might have. Just for your reference, there's a new school being built right around this particular property to the east of it. That's going to be the new intermediate school that you can see. They've stood some walls out there, and that one will be opened in about 2.5 years. The middle school down in Treasure Valley will be open this year, the high school the year after that, and then this intermediate school the following year. So
Wow.
Was there any discussion with the applicant about doing a PUD?
Right next to the blue.
not in this particular location. They just wanted to go with straight R110 zoning. It's a pretty straightforward, flat piece. In a low density, again, they're asking for the higher one in the low density. So I feel we're probably getting the best we'll probably get. They can always make the lots bigger than that. They just can't go less than that. So when I looked at that, especially when people go for the higher zoning, they end up going to the lower one. Sometimes I may try to say, would you consider a PUD? But in this case, we didn't.
One of my questions on that, looking at this reminds me of a recent thing not very far from there where we worked with Washington County about how to get rid of a piece of land that they had there. And they recommended us the best thing that goes very close to any of these things like schools as administrative professional. So my question with the PUD, we're always struggling and looking for opportunities to see if they're considering commercial in anything that we're doing. And that looks like a very ideal place. Obviously, I'm talking about the very first section is for building and stuff, but that corner lot connects right to a school scenario. I know we haven't zoned that yet because it's being annexed. Is that what I'm understanding, Drew? That blue part?
Yeah, the blue part is going to come in an annexation.
Okay, so that annexation is the part where I'm most curious because it seems like it connects and is going to be neighbors with the school there. And going off the pattern that Washington County School District has set for us and opening opportunities for business to start, that's where I push with Councilman Granger to see if the applicant is interested in pushing more of a PUD approach to that, to open up more opportunities for us to develop logistically sound places for our commercial and opportunities to develop our economy better.
And probably in the blue box, we may want to entertain that because that'll be on that there'll be at an intersection. The candidate's here tonight. He may want to consider that, with that.
That's comparable in the sense of, I'm just talking about, I have a very limited window that I've been here on the council,
Mm-hmm.
but that one that was Washington County recommended in the past has really opened up my eyes to, well, what does work with a school? I know our homes work well, but if they would consider diversifying to add another option to our community, I would highly encourage, if that's something that, unless you see something otherwise, administrative professional working there, am I talking fairly like that's an okay thing to push for?
Sure it is on any intersection of two roads. And when you have, I'm pretty sure, let me try to remember what this road is.
3090, isn't it?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm trying to pick up this one that's running north and south, 240 west. That's what I thought. So, it's 240 west is one of our master plan roads, along with a 3090 south. They're both two important roads. So, hopefully the landowner here is listening. Maybe they'll take that back to the family and digest that a bit as this annexation comes. They could probably talk about. Sounds like the council would almost be very entertaining of zoning at PUD right up, and then we'll wait for a plan maybe in the future if that's what he wants to. Hint, hint. As we go through this, but we can entertain that one at that time.
It's a large piece of property, so design could be important.
Yeah. So again, what we're basically taking in, this is the piece we're kind of looking at just from the aerial.
The 19 acres we're talking about right here. Just for your view on that, so.
Okay.
Okay, do you have
Thank
any
you.
other questions
Any
for
other
me?
questions for Drew? How about for the applicant?
Yes, but one more thought. This certainly is an example of when we increase density, where we've talked about a way that we could give points and set aside land and get parks and had that discussion. We just haven't gone any further with it.
This isn't part of the density bonus area.
Well, we weren't.
Well, it could be if they wanted to go that route.
Well, if we had that plan in place. But,
Current density bonus program, we don't have a component within the current density bonus program on moderate income housing. That's what you're referring to.
Well, actually, there is. You can get credit in the bonus density if you provide, and there's a ratio in there that tells you if you do, I think it's 10% or something, it has to last for X amount of years, that you can get I think it's a 50. I think it's a pretty good chunk if you wanted, take advantage. But again, those homes are going to be the ones that have to be cheaper than the rest, and they have to keep a contract on them and run through HUD. And, it'd be a kind of a little policing nightmare maybe, but maybe not. We just haven't had anybody apply for it.
Don't they actually attach it to the title?
They do.
Yeah.
And they have like a 5-year period that
It comes as part of the title issue.
yeah, so that person can stay in it for that 5 years, and then it can change into a regular home for the same thing. But generally what we feared is that they would build all the homes up to a certain standard, say with all these upgrades of the tiles and all, fancier finishes. But these homes would then end up being linoleum and, countertops and floors, and it would just be the base grade carpets, and they wouldn't put any frills in them whatsoever because of the cost that they're going to have to do that with. And that would be the only, you could probably drive through the subdivision and go, oh, that's one of the bonus density credit homes. That's one of them. That's one of them. That's one of them. You could put them all on the same strip of property too to eliminate that. So
I'm not going to get on the wagon of this issue, but that really is the objective.
it is.
The objective is not to create these little conclaves of, low income or moderate income housing, and then these other, it's to kind of mix throughout the community, those type of things. And certainly they're going to have to approach it from a different cost standpoint, but that also is part of its control.
Exactly.
Because they can't pull the same pricing out of that for resales after that as well. So
And that's where the council
part of the
has,
plan.
the council has that directive. If they came to that, they could say, no, we want these scattered out here, here, and here, and we'll accept your, proposal on that credit. So we definitely work that way.
Well, I would like to hear from the applicant. I do have a few questions, if they'd be okay. Ask a few questions to you.
Yeah, this is a public hearing, so. Mike, yeah,
Right. Better introduce yourself for the record there.
Mike Staley, applicant.
Okay, Mr. Staley, one of the things that I really like about your property you have here, first of all, thanks for developing this. As a city councilman, I'm always interested in seeing some of the intents of property enhanced housing being used, and we're really trying to push PUDs and opportunities to expand commercial and other things. The original piece you're starting right now is slated for residential. And, but the other corner at the bottom there, would you be open to entertaining options for making that maybe something more of an administrative professional? It's where people can have like an orthodontist or an insurance agency. They're not crazy, you know, commercial things. And in a previous amendment we've done with Washington County likes that type of business next to their schools.
Mhm.
And so that's one thing, as we're annexing this land coming forward, has that been something you've considering, or do you have the intention of just making that more residential going forward?
That was one of the things we've talked about in the beginning, was hopefully being able to do some commercial, some type of commercial on that 5-acre piece that's not annexed in yet. But we didn't think it was a possibility, so we were going to just try and zone it all at once. But so if it's a possibility, yeah, we'd definitely look into
We
something.
just went through that with the school district.
So-
Well, as you say, I hate to put words in the school district's mouth. They like the idea when they own the property and try to sell it.
That's what I told the mayor.
It is
That's what I
true,
told the mayor when they own
but
the property.
For what I do like about what the school district has said as a template of saying, we feel that this is an appropriate form of commercial next to a school, whether it's their property or not. That's the part where,
They've set a precedence, there's no doubt.
right.
They did, and it was, but they were also very clear about certain businesses were okay.
Yeah,
And
that's.
that's
And
what
I don't think that's fair.
And I would be the same way, certain businesses next to a school. I don't,
I think it merits a little bit of a discussion if the applicant is willing to see what are those certain businesses and see if that's something they'd be willing to help us develop in that area.
That's, yeah, in the future.
Yeah, we're definitely looking at it. Originally, we'd talked about doing like an assisted living, but I think any type of commercial would be beneficial. We'd definitely look into something like that.
Other questions for Mike? Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
This is a public hearing. Anybody else have a comment or question on it? I'll give you 10 seconds.
You know you want to come up, Robbie.
Mayor, seeing no one come forward, I'll make the motion that we close the public hearing.
Second,
Have a motion in a second.
Rick, aye.
Bellis and I.
Clef eye.
Ward, aye.
All right, thinking that will be,
Mayor, if I just may remind, I don't know if these, they'll vote on it actually in 2 weeks from tonight, in case.
thank you. Okay, where am I? Item 11, consideration to approve an ordinance granting zone change request Z-18-01, amending a portion of the Stuckey Farms PCD by making changes to the site plan map, villages, and amending street cross sections as found in Exhibit E, street sections and curbing, and updating the zoning comparison chart. Applicant South Landing Development.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, this 2-week holdover has reached its completion. The item is now ready for council action. Mayor just kind of stated there are basically three things taking place here. They're changing this Village 6, changing the densities on it to a higher density. And they're also adding a new street section.
Laird, that's not, it is or is not an overall increase in density of the overall project? I think they said that they weren't able to gain their density on the other portion, so they were transferring those.
Right, and that's basically what I've been told by the engineer, is that it's still going to be kept whole even with these changes, because they've been losing densities to them in the northern projects because they went from certain lots, it wasn't moving, so they increased the lots in the meadows. They lost quite a few there, and then in the 2 other developments they're working on now, they just started with bigger lots. So they have lost densities there, and they're just basically transferring the ones here. So this is the new cross section on the street that is being proposed in that exhibit. And then also the final thing is they've just updated the zoning comparison chart, eliminated the church one out of it, and we had that discussion. It's not that there won't be a church, it's just that it can go anywhere in the project. So they're going to wait till the LDS church or any other church comes to them and says, here's the piece we want to do it, and then we'll do a standard CUP like we would anywhere else. So that's basically what's before you. Just to finish up, to let you know, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of Z-18-01, amending the portions of the Stuckey Farms PCD as stated. This is on to you, the City Council. And again, the conditions are basically those requests that are being changed, and only those things as part of this amendment. So answer any questions if you've tabulated any of them between the last 2 weeks.
Just as a refresher, is this the one where the HOA came in and voiced an approval for this? That was one of the most refreshing recommendations I've ever had for the HOA representatives come and say, we really like this. I've never had a more glowing report for any builder to have that type of an endorsement by their HOA. So I'm very much appreciative for the efforts to have a very good working relationship with those who have bought in the area. And to have such enough support, they would come and speak in favor of the developer was a wonderful experience, dare I say.
And I will just add on that when a PCD is running right and being built right and correct by the master developer, usually the folks are fairly happy in there. For the most part, that'll happen. You'll get a lot of the people from Coral Canyon will show up, and sometimes when changes happen, they may not be real comfortable with it, but they have a sense of pride about their whole development. They're happy with the way things have kind of gone. And so, which is good to hear from time to time, because usually you don't hear the positive things. That's what I try to tell folks. Only when people agree with it, they stay home and watch the Olympics or whatever's on TV that night, or take their spouse or something out on Valentine's night, and, they don't show up to those things. So it is good to hear that.
Mike, I got a couple questions for you if you got just a second. Any concern on the road profile 1 and 2? That's going to be public, correct? So we're going to maintain it?
Correct. Yeah, no issues with it. We actually, in areas like this, we kind of like that, where we don't have the curb and gutter, and we're not directing stormwater. We're getting it into a borrow ditch to where we can actually get it to percolate into the ground and not have to deal with runoff.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions or comments?
Mayor, if you're ready,
I'm ready.
I'll make an ordinance make a motion that we approve an ordinance granting zone change request Z-18-01, amending a portion of the Stuckey Farms PCD by making changes to the site plan, map, and amending street cross sections, and updating the zoning comparison chart.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Turek, aye.
Carlson, aye.
Granger, aye.
Bluff eye.
Ward, aye.
All right, that's approved. We'll move on to item 12, resolution. Consideration to approve a resolution of Washington City, Utah, approving the form of the vehicles lease with Horsepower Fleet Leasing and authorizing the execution thereof.
Mayor, Council, thank you. I believe these were in your packet, and really it's just a formalization of a process we've been involved in for the last 2 years. They've obtained new financing, and it's just a resolution they want to have approved by City Council. We'll be out of this lease program at the end of this year with the fleet process that we've got in place. Now we'll be replacing those vehicles, so that it'll only go through the remainder of this year.
This calendar year.
This calendar year. We'll be finishing up the end of 2018.
That answered my concern with it. I just was wondering exactly what we were doing. So
Yeah, that's it. That's all it is.
I've done.
Just for my curiosity, what are these vehicles used for?
They're police vehicles.
I thought these were trucks.
They are.
Oh, okay.
We've got one as a marked unit as one of our sergeant's vehicles. My lieutenant drives one and I drive one.
How long have we been in this lease now, Chief?
Pardon?
How long have we been in this lease?
This is our third year.
I was skeptical that they would keep going for more than 1 year.
And the reason they're doing this is because they've grown so much, they had to have some outside financing, and so that's why they've reduced. been a phenomenal price, but through, we talked last night, kind of a critical time.
So is that what changed the lease? I thought what changed the lease was.
I don't really changed the lease.
No.
I think
It's just the resolution is all,
just wanted something formalized from the city.
that's right,
In the resolution. The lease itself is still the
No.
same.
right.
I think that the bank or whatever financial institution,
The
loans
process.
money for their inventory wanted something else for whatever reason. I'm not sure what it does for them to have a resolution. They have the lease already, but.
Yeah,
Yeah, you think, sign lease agreement.
Yeah.
You want-
yeah, it's just something that they
It has all
require.
the provisions.
All right, any other questions? Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
If there's not, Mayor, I'll make the motion that we approve our resolution to continue with our form of vehicle leasing with the horsepower fleet and authorizing the execution thereof.
Second,
I have a motion and a second.
Turk, aye.
Ellis and I.
Granger, aye.
Clough, aye.
Ward, aye.
All right, thank you. Anything to report? If not, extremely valuable. And the city manager has offered to default his. We can go a little early and let you get home to your families.
I have one question though. Actually, I was hoping that Councilman Turk could have pay you $100.
I was thinking of seven
I noticed he had
minutes.
some questions that went about 7 minutes.
I told the mayor, I said, I'll give you a 5-minute reprieve, but he's missed that one too.
Mayor, real quickly, I just want to talk about the logistics of our trip on Monday up to the state legislature. So we're anticipating leaving, and I just need to go down the list because I can't remember who's going and who's coming over there. Who's going, who am I picking up from here to there?
I will be traveling up.
You'll be traveling up. So Councilman, thank you. And then I've got you, Councilman Ward, coming back. I know Councilman, we're planning on leaving about 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock. And we'll just go by your house.
Okay.
Don't plan, you don't have to make arrangements to kind of come here. We'll just come by the house and I'll keep you from leaving a vehicle here and then we'll just drop you off at your house too.
Do you run a taxi service in Salt Lake as well? I may actually need to be picked up from a location.
Oh, we're okay.
there.
Yes, we'll work out whatever you need to do as far as that's concerned. So 2 o'clock, right about 2 o'clock, a little bit before, maybe a little bit after. And so that's the plans there and be a great trip.
Okay, I'm going with you.
Yeah, so I have
Us three.
going up Belliston, yep, Starkey,
No Jumbo
myself.
Big Mac, no Jumbo Mac.
No, it says Grand's back on.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. McDonald's is now selling the Grand Mac again.
Sweet.
Jeez, I texted him that on the weekend because I saw
All
it.
right, with that in mind, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, we're adjourned. Happy Valentine's, all you guys.
Hey, look at this.
So Mayor, you'll let me know events that I need to be to or where to meet you or.
We'll plan on dinner Monday night. I'm thinking,
I'm in North Salt Lake, but it doesn't matter.
I think
Where is
nice. Murray is nice. Midville's nice. My
see, we're staying the same.
That's great.
So, let me think about it. We'll let you plan on dinner around. See if we do.
Yeah, I'm thinking it'll be 7. So. Yeah, just let me know.
Should we just call in? Yeah, I could probably do that. Okay, around 7-ish. Did Councilman Turk leave?
No, now look at that. He's got a small cup tonight.
All right. Did you see that? You guys.
Just know that this is a process of having voices being heard. Process of voices being heard.
Some subtle intimidation is what it is.
When the guy goes for a bigger cup of candy, and he's trying to say something that he doesn't want to say out loud. He wants to be known. I'm saying, you can be known. Hey, look forward to the ride up there with you, Mayor. Lots to talk about.
Thanks, Colleen, for talking to me.
Yeah.
I really appreciate articulating that part tonight. Because I went back and looked at the PowerPoint and everything, and I didn't see the clarity that I needed. And so that's